Creators Circle is a weekly call for creators like you to ask your questions about the law of attraction. To get information on how to connect, please go to cocreationcoaching.org/creators circle.
Hey everyone, this is Creators Circle number 7, and we are here today for a discussion of whatever happens to come up. First of all, for people
with a very tiny group.
With a very tiny group. For people who are listening later on, if you want to see the transcript, you can sign up for it on the form below this recording. Or if you are on YouTube, then you can go to cocreationcoaching.org/creators-circle-7. I know there's little hyphens, but that's how it is. Okay, so first of all, I want to say we will not be here next week because Christine and I are going on vacation.
Woohoo!
Outstanding.
So I don't even think we'll have any blog posts next week. I'm just going to recycle some old ones. And
I will kill you if you do. So if he doesn't come back.
If he actually doesn't make it back, it was because he actually tried to blog post last week.
I actually tried to blog and Christine killed me. Because I actually tried to blog and Christine killed me.
And Christine killed you.
Yeah. So we will be on vacation next week, so no Creator Circle. Hopefully they can change the email automation, because every Tuesday morning it says Creator Circle tonight, and that'd be kind of embarrassing if it said that and there wasn't one.
I will not be on vacation next week.
You will not be on what? You have the Creator Circle by yourself. No.
What?
You can have it by yourself. Hold your own Creator Circle.
I would never wish to usurp your spot.
Anyway, so yeah, we won't be here next week. We'll be on vacation till.
So miss us.
Till Wednesday or Thursday. No. What did you say, Christine?
So miss us.
So miss us.
Never heard
that
anyone.
is an order from Queen Christine. So.
Yes, I am the queen.
I will miss you next week on purpose.
Thank you. You better. Christine will check with you. She'll be like, so what was your level of missing us?
Are you going to do it like a dowser and say, were you missing us at a 60% or a 70%?
That's right. Oh, it better at least be 85%.
Oh, man.
Anyway. So, all right. So anyway, today we're going to discuss, at least to start with, stuff. No, we're going to talk about how specific or how general should you be with your goal? Because Justin brought this up as an issue when we were talking before the recording. And I think it's a good topic. I think we've touched on it here and there in the blog, but actually I'll be touching. Answer? I'm sorry?
Short answer, don't worry about the details. Long answer, it's really hard.
You're as feisty today. My goodness.
I know.
Anyway, we have this basic.
I just summarized 20 minutes.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
I'm sorry.
Vacation just started early.
So anyway, but yeah, that's how specific should you be. And I'll be talking about this a little bit in the blog post Thursday as well, so it'll be something we discuss. But so in my opinion, I know it's a very difficult one. And I know some people try to tell you, like, be absolutely really super specific with every little detail and, imagine every little thing as though you're there and that kind of thing. I honestly don't have the mental bandwidth for that. I do a lot mentally. Like I do basically math problems in my head to go to sleep. So I'm a big thinker, but I
Right about that.
Yeah. But I just don't have the mental bandwidth to like hold every little detail in my head and try to imagine.
You can do math problems.
Yeah, well, it's different things, but I'm not like that. I know Neville Goddard says something like that, like to, imagine the wish fulfilled and really be super specific about it and that kind of stuff. I'm not that kind of person. I just can't do it. My thing is be as detailed as you have to be to feel excited about the goal, to evoke the emotions that you want to evoke, and not too much resistance. I think that in the beginning, when you're just starting out, it's helpful to stay a bit more general because you're just starting to sort of outline your goal. I see a goal a lot like, let's say you're building a house. Don't know where that came from, but it's there. And, you don't start with, well, I want a room over here. I want, this furniture in this room. You don't start with that. You start with a foundation. You start with the basic structure, 4 walls and a roof sort of thing. And, then you go in and build like the different rooms. And so you get more specific as you go, but you have to start with a basic structure or you don't have anything. Right? So that's kind of how I feel like a manifestation is, where you want to start with the basic structure. You want to start with like being very general about it. And then in time, you can go to the more specific things. So like in the beginning, when you're more general, it'll help you to feel some emotion without too much resistance. Because, okay, let's take, for example, money. We all can imagine something like, it would be nice to be rich. It would be nice to have more money, right? We can all kind of imagine that without too much resistance. And from there, like we can get some emotion from that. Like that feels pretty nice and whatever. And there's not a lot of resistance because it's very general. We're not being very specific about how we're going to do it and how it's going to happen and how long it'll take and that kind of thing. But as we go, that's a good start. And then we start to get more specific. Like, okay, well, how do I want to be rich? Like, how much money exactly do I want? Okay, let's say 100,000. Okay, well, how do I want to get it? Well, I want to be self-employed. I want to start a business. Well, what do I want to be doing in that business? Well, I want to, do like some kind of like, let's say coaching or something. And you get more and more specific from there. So, but if you try to do that from day one and say, okay, what exactly do I want in every little detail? You're kind of get a little overwhelmed. I just think it's not going to work out that well. So that's the kind of framework I see. And I know, Justin, if you want to speak to a little bit, because you said you've been confused about that in the past. So what's your
for me, it depends on the different subjects. Now, this is what I do. This is how I will a lot of times ask my guides and guardians to help send me some of the details, because I have found when I stretch for details, depending upon what it is, a lot of times it just becomes forcing it. So I just have found that sometimes, especially in the beginning, it really works for me to do that. And then I can see some of the ways that it might happen. Mm-hmm. I've also found that sometimes my details change as it goes. Right. For me, I have found that you find an overall goal, and then you ask for that specific goal, but don't worry about the sub goals beneath it. Just ask for that thing and let it sort of form. Right. Unless you specifically say, I am going to break this down and this is goal 1, goal 2, goal 3. I guess that's fine. But for the most part, this is just for me. For the most part, I let the goal happen and then I just step through the steps as they're presented, and I do not treat them as goals. I just don't. For me. Right.
I think like to me, you're seeing the details in a slightly different way than I do. And I think like what you're seeing is because you're mentioning sub goals. So you can say something like, well, let's say I want to get $100,000 by, starting a business, and first I'll do this, and then I'll do this step, and then, I'll register the domain name, and then I'll start a website, and then I'll, blog, and those sorts of tasks. Let's call them tasks. I don't know if they're
I found just don't mess with those.
But that's not always, I think, what we mean by details. I think, I think when we talk about details, I mean, that can be part of it. And some people will try to get into that, like the nitty-gritty of the fine little details of it, like, well, how do I have to get there? And that's like over-analysis. That's overkill.
Yeah, what I mean by details is exactly how the products are going to look and form themselves.
Right.
I don't know. That's kind of how I don't want to get too deep into that because, see, I think that sometimes I get confused.
Right. But let's say, again, money, and I say, well, I want to have a lot of money. Well, okay. The universe says, okay, well, that's nice. I can't really do much with that unless you sort of specify a little bit, because a lot of money to one person could mean $100, and to another person could mean $100 million or $100 billion.
Yeah,
I mean, what's a lot of money to you? And how soon do you want that? Like, is it okay if I get let's say $100 to you in like 50 years or so? Is that all right? I mean, you're not being specific, so like,
so you have, for me, I have to be, and this is what I say, you have to be kind of specific only to the parts that you need to be specific with. It's just what I do. So you don't want to over detail it, but you've got to give it enough, what I call enough power, oomph, enough drive so that there's a challenge there. There's enough tension there.
Right.
Other than that, you just might as well not. I mean,
Right. So, I mean, I'm not saying like to do every little, how it's going to happen. But the detail can fill in the picture, so I want, let's say $100,000 by this date, within 6 months or within a year or whatever. And that will allow you to fill out the picture a lot more and say, okay, this is exactly what I want. So the universe says, all right, I see that. And if your subconscious believes it, it'll say, all right, fine. If it doesn't believe it because it's the next level goal, it'll say, well, can't quite fulfill that wish because blank. And there's your resistance. Okay, and then you work through the resistance and then, well, can't quite fulfill it still because other blank. And so on and so forth. So, you keep going like that and eventually it'll do it. But the detail, I find, drives you on a lot more. It really drives you forward a lot more when you're saying, well, I want $100,000 within 6 months.
I agree.
I'm not going to say this is how it's going to happen. This is every little step. But there are details that matter to me. There's the amount that definitely matters to me. Well, let's say you want a job, and that definitely matters what field it's in. You don't want, like, let's say a job. If your expertise is in accounting, you don't want to be a doctor, or a lawyer, or an engineer, or whatever.
You definitely want a job in the field of accounting.
Right. So, like, and it matters to you how far the office is away from your home and how much you make and how your coworkers are. And certain things matter more than others to you, but that's part of your desire. Right. So I think I've talked about before, like, especially in the classes, like the Art of Reality Creation 2.0, I've talked about this in some of the blogs, but I've talked about your goal starts from a seed, and I've called it I think I even call it the seed of your goal. The seed of your goal is the emotion, right? But it starts with a little seed, and you say, well, I want to have more money. I want to have, a bit more money or whatever, or be wealthy, or however you want to word it. And that's your seed. And so the universe says, all right, okay, that's planted. You want to have more money. And then you come along later and you feel good about that. And you come along later and say, well, by more money, I mean $100,000 and whatnot, And so you water that seed, you add more attention to it, you add more focus to it, you add more detail to it. It's really hard to focus on a seed that is super general. Like, I just want to be wealthier. I just want to have more money.
You can't focus on that.
You can't really focus on that. So, or I want a job. Well, okay, so here's a retail job paying minimum wage. Is that what you wanted?
Yeah.
No. So it's really hard to focus on a seed that's really general, because you're not going to, I want a job is totally different from I want my dream job in this field. Like, those are two totally different energies. So I want a job, that's a fine seed. But I want to be an accountant making $100,000 a year and, doing this and this and this, whatever. That's a lot more detail. And so that seed grows a lot more with a lot more focus, and it becomes more and more and more of your goal. So I think a goal naturally becomes much more detailed as it grows. It just naturally starts as a seed, meaning very general. Sometimes months or years before you realize you want it. Like, you might be planting goal seeds everywhere without even knowing it. Like, you might know from a young age, let's say I want to get married. That's a seed. I want to get married. I am married, so I no longer want to be married because I am married.
So we can use that one.
Justin wants to get married. So he might have done that for years. So that's a goal seed. Now, as Justin gets older, or got older, he realized...
Hey.
You're old, Justin. You're the oldest one here, so you're a senior citizen as far as we're concerned.
I turned 28.
Yeah, 28, sure, right.
Sure, try 10 years older.
Anyway, so you realize over the years that, okay, yeah, you want to get married. Okay, well, this is the kind of person that you're most attracted to, or this is the kind of relationship you want, or things like that, or this is the age at which you'd like to get married, or whatever. And so that goal gets more and more specific. So we can realize from a young age, like I knew from a young age, okay, number one, I want to be working in a spiritual field. Okay, goal seed number one. Goal seed number two, I want to be making a lot of money. Okay, that was my desire from a young age.
But you also wanted to marry a nerd, and you didn't. So
that is true, but that was an option.
Christine, you can eat a pack of nerds, right?
That's true.
There you go.
That's right. See, it's all in the details.
That's right. Goal accomplished.
Goal accomplished.
But it's true, though. He has always said he wanted to marry someone who is at least as smart as him. Well,
you're smart.
I don't think we could handle that.
No, I don't think so either.
Are you calling me really smart or really dumb? I really can't tell right now.
I don't know.
You're the smart one, and I'm the one that can translate stuff into...
That's right.
You're the human interface.
Yes.
Just the human interface.
And Brandonese to the rest of us.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, but those are my two goals. I want to work in a spiritual field, and I want to make a lot of money. Okay, which kind of to a lot of people seem at odds, but I don't think so.
No,
it's evil. Not. What is it?
How evil? I want to make money.
You must not be a guru.
So those are my two goals, and over the years, I tried out a lot of versions of that, and some didn't work, some sort of worked, some I had to improve upon, but now, both of those seeds are getting a lot more specific, having a lot more momentum behind them. So sometimes, let's say you set a specific goal today. Okay, well, I want this job. I want to have this specific kind of job. But that might have been growing in your subconscious for months or years, where you knew from way before what sort of in a general way kind of job you wanted, or things like that, or what kind of work you wanted to do and whatever. And this is just the latest iteration of that original goal seed. And so you're helping it to grow as you give more focus to it and you give more specificity to it. Let's say, well, I want this many clients by this date. That's just really a subset of my original goal seed of I want to work in a spiritual field, right? So you're bringing more specificity to it. You're bringing more focus to it. It's growing because of that focus. And next, your next goal will be easier, but it has to do with the same topic, right? So let's say I want this many X number of clients, and the next time I want 2X number of clients. You know what I mean? Like, it'll be easier to grow that because I achieved the first goal. So you get more and more and more and more and more specific as you go, and that allows the energy to work on that pathway. I've described.
What I've found.
Go ahead.
Real quick. What I've found is, so I don't forget it. What I've found is, for me, and it's what the details are like important, but what I found that really works for me is when I allow them to be flexible. Like, I know exactly, I pretty much know how I'm going to get to the goal I want at this point. It's like, okay. But it's as long as I let their details, but as long as they're able to move around some,
right,
then it actually works pretty well. It's when I get too rigid with them, or when I get too general with them. So when I don't get too rigid, so somewhere in the middle, it's like,
right.
It's almost like you would hold a samurai sword.
Right.
If you hold a samurai sword with all of your hands, the guy's going to either knock it out of your hand or break your hand.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Right.
So you got to have to be able to, the details need to be kind of sharp, but they need to be able to move a little bit.
I think that comes down to which details are really important to you and which aren't. Because for me, like a detail like I want to work in a spiritual field is not flexible. That's
not flexible.
That's what I want.
No.
Or a detail like, I want to be making this much isn't flexible. It might be postponable. Is that a word?
Well, like I say, part of the sword is not going to be flexible either. I mean, part of the sword is going to be rigid too, right?
What I'm saying is, like, so some of those details might not actually be from your core. Like, let's say, okay, my next goal, let's say I want to make this much a year, but that could be coming from fear. And so it's not an authentic expression of your core. It's more of I need to do this in order to feel safe. That's not a detail that's going to help you. It's a detail that's going to get in your way.
Because the amount I want to make is not flexible.
Right.
At least for my first goal, that first amount.
Right, exactly.
It's not flexible.
But, if there was a detail that was more out of the desire to feel safe, not out of an expression of core, then that would actually get in the way. That would not be, an expression of your truest goal. So we're tending these goal seeds, helping them to grow, and we want to help them to become the truest expression of what they were meant to be. So if I want to work in a spiritual field, going against that's going to hurt me.
No, don't do that.
Or taking on an aspect that isn't in alignment with that goal is also going to hurt me. So it's my job to tend that goal, to help it to grow, to become the truest expression of what it's supposed to be. The same thing could be for, let's say, having a lot of money. That is a true core level goal if, that's your thing. Like you could want a lot of abundance, a lot of physical abundance, not just everyone says, oh, we're all abundant, whatever, but a lot of physical monetary abundance so that you can, you don't even need an excuse. I don't want to go into that, but just for the experiences you want to have. Right. And so if you go against that, then it's going to hurt. And if you go with that, if you tend to that goal and let it be its truest expression, then it's going to be a lot better. It's going to, be joyful to you. So that's how it works for me. I think, when it's just starting out, we're a lot more general, and we do this all the time. We have things, we dream about, we envision, that kind of thing. When it gets to the point of this is what I want, I think that's around the point when it really starts coming up to the surface And the goal almost presents itself to us. A question, okay, we're running out of time, but I'm going to ask a question. Do we create or imagine the goals, or do the goals present themselves to us for completion?
Ooh.
Yeah.
What if?
One thing I read. Oh, go ahead, Christine.
What
Okay.
if?
Well, what if like we start by sort of giving like the idea of the goal, but then it's like it creates itself later because it's like it sort of knows or something knows.
Like what I'm saying is like, right, and what I'm saying is like a lot of these goals start when we're very young, and we might not even know it.
Uh-huh.
And those true core level goals really start at a young age, generally. And then they'll come, eventually they'll come to the surface and beg for expression. And they'll say, hey, I want to be working in a spiritual level field. And if I'm not doing that, I'm denying it expression. And did I really consciously one day say, you know what, let's see, all things considered equal, I think I want to work in a spiritual field? No, it was just sort of part of me. Did I say one day, I think I'd like to have a lot of money in life? Also, that just sort of came to me, if I really look at it.
Yeah.
The goals that I have to manufacture myself, and I use that word very deliberately, the goals I have to manufacture myself were more egoic level goals and not really something that I really want, right? Now, obviously, you could have temporary goals that move along a deep level goal that you've always had. Let's say, like, my goal to get off of SSI was an expression of my goal to have a lot more money in life and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But my expression of that being getting the job I did, which, by the way, I'm starting part-time this Friday.
Yay!
That was in conflict with my other goal of I want to work in a spiritual field. And so they clashed. And my soul said, wait, okay, great, money, woohoo. But, hey, what about the spiritual thing? I'm not happy, And so that was sort of a conflict that had to get resolved, which it has been now. So do we decide on our core goals, or do our goals present themselves to us and we have to discover them?
Well, they're saying the spiritual world ideas are real. Mm-hmm. And in our world, what we have in this world is just ideas in the spiritual world. So really, think about it. The idea, they're real over there. So, yeah.
And so does that make sense? I mean, What if our goals present themselves to us for completion? They say, here we are.
I think that's really cool. And it proves that there's like another sort of something, like a force, out there. Like
for you, Christine, and I hope you don't mind this.
No.
Could you possibly choose not to be a healer?
No.
So,
no.
Did you come up with that goal, or did that goal sort of
part of me.
Present itself to you for discovery?
It's part of me.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll admit, for me, I'm not,
right. You could never not do that. I mean, it's just, if you didn't do it, it would be like,
what's my purpose?
Right, it's your purpose. It would not.
And I'll admit, for me, I'm not 100% sure exactly where I fit in the spiritual field, but I know I've been in it for years.
Right.
And just doing different things.
Right.
So
that's, I think, my question.
That's great.
For meditation, I guess, for everyone to part with is look at your goals. If they're really expressions of your core essence, meaning they're really expressions of these goal seeds that started from a young age, then these core goals, again, did you really choose them deliberately, consciously, or were they always there and they presented themselves to you?
Yeah.
for your discovery,
That's so cool.
for your completion. So you could complete those goals. And you can complete them consciously. You have that choice. But did you actually come up with them? Like, yeah, I want to do this.
I think they come to you.
Yeah.
Because it needs an expression of yourself, then it's fine. If you got to come up with them, it's probably not from your essence.
Exactly right. If you have to come up with them, it's probably not from your essence. I think that's what you just said.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's what I invite everyone to kind of meditate on. I think it's a deep question, an important question. So that's all from us today. Again, we will not be here next week. We will be happily on vacation. And so we will see everyone in 2 weeks for another Creator's Circle. I hope everyone has a wonderful 2 weeks. And again, if you want to see the transcript for this, you can sign up for that below where this recording shows up, or at co-creationcoaching.org. And otherwise, I hope everyone has a great week. Well, 2 weeks, whatever. And bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.